Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks Deep Dive. And today I'm going to talk about just the general subject of life. But before I get into that, I'm going to touch on the membership again. We have a membership now where you can watch videos about politics and current events, stuff I normally don't talk about on the regular channel. The regular channel is going to stay the same, no difference. But if you're interested in that kind of stuff that I just mentioned, I'll be doing videos on that, political ideals and my philosophies on that kind of stuff. Doing it as with memberships, we know we'll have serious people in there that aren't going to be trolls, and because sometimes I get a little worried about some of the comments that are just meant to antagonize me and try to get me to say something that I shouldn't say. So that worries me a little bit. So I figured this way, if we do it this way, then we all know that we're, pretty much there for legitimate reasons. So just putting that out there. With all of the technology and advancements as far as humanity has come, and we're trusting the science and all this stuff, and when you really think about it, they still have not figured out what life is. They're still debating and arguing over this stuff. I just watched a thing where the legal system has made people legally dead after a certain level of brain activity or whatever, and they're legally a corpse. And you can look this kind of stuff up, but there's a family that fought against that, and in the middle of fighting against trying to prove whether or not their daughter was alive against the government, their daughter started her period while she's laying there in a coma. So, I mean, it's a really gray area, but it just baffles me that these people are making laws. Now, they made the laws to harvest the organs for transplants that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, I just put that out there. They didn't just make the law to try to save people and for all these altruistic reasons. They passed these laws for money. They're making money off these people. So they don't want them sitting there being a living human being. They want them to be a product that they can sell. Humanity, we still cannot define life. We don't know what life is, not even at the lowest level. You have a seed in your hand. It's an inanimate object, but when the conditions are met with moisture and whatever, it starts to grow. Now, life has begun there. What is that? What is that spark there that has went from inanimate, non-moving, it's just a non-creature, to now it's given life. Now it's alive. So, and what inside a person makes them alive? Now, you can go from both ends of the spectrum. From at the beginning of life, when is the embryo alive? When is it alive? To the end of life, when is the person dead? We don't know. We're arguing about it. And it seems like these are some of the things that would be figured out first. Not, and I keep harping on this stuff, but not sending billions of dollars overseas to fund foreign wars, not sending American lives overseas to fight in foreign wars. We should be figuring this kind of stuff out and resolving these issues in a way that the American people, the people in Western civilization, can, if not be happy, at least be comfortable in the fact that we all agreed on it, or the majority of us agreed on it, whatever. Instead, we're having these laws passed because corporations lobbied to have them passed, and they're just drawing a hard line here. At this point, there's no life, because at this point, corporations can make money off of the physical body. Now, the family and the loved ones they're completely disregarded. The person on the machines is completely disregarded, and only the corporation's interests are taken into account at this point. And from what I understand, there's only one state in the union that allows for the family to intercede, and if my memory is correct, it's New Jersey. So that's the only state where you're allowed to say, hey, I believe that my loved one is still alive. We're not going to do it. So the whole question of life and death, that just the fact that we haven't figured it out just blows my mind. The fact that we're arguing about this while we're flying rocket ships into space, riding on maglev trains and talking to each other on the other side of the world and living in virtual realities and all this stuff and having all this weird stuff. But we don't know what life is. We're still arguing. We can't figure that one out. The most basic questions about our existence we don't know, but we can figure out how to eradicate millions of people with a push of a button. We figured that out. We can invent all kinds of weapons and invent all kinds of reasons to fight. We can invent all kinds of stuff. But we can't tell whether a person is alive or dead at any part of the spectrum. So that just boggles my mind. It's something that I think about. And I think about where we should be devoting our resources, we don't. The places we should be devoting our resources, we ignore or half-ass, or we invest them, but in the wrong way, in favor of billion-dollar corporations, not in favor of the people whose tax money we're spending, right? That's what's going on. They're spending our money on these foreign wars and stuff instead of spending that money on trying to figure out basic questions about whether we're alive or whether we should be saved or is it actually a lost cause. And that goes, there are so many subjects on that. We can go on forever about the places where we should be spending our money, where we should be spending our time and resources that aren't war and, just enriching politicians and all this disgusting shit that goes on in our society. Way just vastly more amounts of money go into the disgusting things, the destruction of life, the destruction of integrity, the destruction, then goes into creation and help and good things. And that's not even a religious thing or anything. It's just obvious. That's just facts. So I've listened to the debates and it's really difficult to say where life begins on a scientific objective level. Now I know everybody has their own beliefs. I believe life begins at a certain spot and ends at a certain spot, and everybody can have their own beliefs and that differ from that. But my point is that all of these resources we spend should be going into figuring that out for real on a scientific level. It shouldn't be debatable. We should know these things. By now, I would think, in my opinion, we should know when we're alive and when we're dead. That's pretty obvious to me. And the fact that we don't just is really confusing. The fact that kind of stuff is still being argued, but we figured out how to launch ICBMs and all this stuff. We figured all this kind of stuff out, but we can't figure out whether or not a person is alive. And I'll leave you there. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking on that super thanks button down there. Thank you for those of you who do that. I sincerely appreciate it. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I'll put that link down in the description. If you're interested in Gen X gear, you can hop over to Redbubble and check that stuff out. We've got t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, all that cool stuff, Gen X things and Gen X branded stuff. I'll put that link down in the description as well. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a lot. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Things Deep Dive, please put those down in the comments, or you can email us in the emails over on the channel page. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.